Ah, the good old small movie that could. The Avengers. And that's the Marvel Avengers, not the Uma Thurman, Sean Connery Avengers movie that came out in 1998. And the Avengers is the culmination of all of Phase 2. Everything from Iron Man, Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, the First Avenger, has all led to this. So the story of the Avengers is that Loki has shown up onto Earth and he wants to do one thing, which is take over the world. And Nick Fury's like, not on my watch. So he assembles Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor, and Bruce Banner to come together to stop Loki. And conflict assumes along with the coolest, most fun you've had in terms of all these Disney Marvel movies, man. Seriously, I feel like the Avengers is a comic book that has come to life. You watch the movie and you're just like, holy shit, this is exactly what a comic book looks and feels like. You know what I mean? Just the dialogue, the feel of the world, and the action and everything like that. It feels like you have seen a comic book just come to life right in front of your eyes, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? And I love the conflict in this movie between all the members of the Avengers. You know what I mean? Just like you can't really expect these guys with these huge personalities to just come together and be like, we should save the world. You know what I mean? There has to be conflict in there, and I loved how it's done. It's how it's done, man. It was great to see. What I loved is that you know, the characters like Black Widow and Nick Fury have a lot more to do in this one than they did in Iron Man 2, for instance. And that's awesome. I loved how Joss Whedon was able to like flesh these characters out. And speaking of Joss Whedon, when I heard he was cast, I was like, fucking awesome, because I grew up watching Buffy and Angel. And I didn't get into Firefly until later on, but I always had childhood memories of watching Buffy and Angel all the time. So when I heard he was going to do the Avengers, I was like, that's going to be awesome, because he's perfect. You know what I mean? He's written comic books himself, especially X-Men comic books. So the idea of him taking on this, I was just like, fuck yeah, you know what I mean? It's awesome. I'm a big villain guy, and I always like seeing villains be done really well. Loki, in this case, he is done extremely well. You know what I mean? It's like, one of the criticisms I remembered about the first story was that people were like, well, Loki doesn't really act like Loki. And my argument was that, you know, this was all about the birth of the supervillains, how supervillain is in his very beginnings. And the Loki in the Avengers is exactly the Loki from the comic books. He's conniving, he's manipulative, he causes trouble since he's the god of mischief, but at the same time, you know, there's a bit of humanity right there, and I loved how Tom Hiddleston did that in this one. You know what I mean? And you kind of harken back to the first Thor and sort of connect that with the Avengers. Just like, man, he's really gone through an evolution. You know? The movie does, however, have some flaws. Like some of the effects, you look at it, you're just like, yeah, they're clearly standing on a green screen. You know what I mean? It felt like some of those effects I felt like could have been trimmed a little bit better. And most importantly, Hawkeye. I mean, look, Jeremy Renner is a fantastic actor, and I'm pretty sure that he could have been an amazing Hawkeye. And the problem is, his character is kind of like Cyclops in the early X movies, how he just gets kind of shafted, and he doesn't really do anything until the final act. And Whedon has often said that he wishes he could have more time with Hawkeye, but there's so many characters in this movie to do, and it's understandable. I do hope in Age of Ultron he gets a lot more to do, though. But aside from that, yeah, the Avengers is everything you'd want in a straight up superhero movie. It's a lot of fun. It's exciting. You feel like you're a kid just watching it. As a comic book fan, it's your wet dream. You know what I mean? It was a wet dream for me, at least. But yeah, the Avengers. I'm just gonna give the Avengers a 9.5 out of 10, and that's my take on the Avengers. So I'll give you my Iron Man 3 review up real soon.